Hey, welcome back to Document Management with CrewTrax. You made it to video 5. This is the last video. We're going to talk about advanced features. And honestly, some of these advanced features are pretty simple. Just when you get into the details of how it works, it takes some explaining. So first of all, I want to make it clear we're dealing with two products here. One is the PDF itself, which is an Adobe product. And the software we use at CrewTrax to create and edit documents is Adobe Acrobat Pro DC. And then there's CrewTrax, of course. So we kind of need to separate those two because some of the features of the PDF might look like advanced features of CrewTrax, but really CrewTrax, we've just built it to handle the features of the PDF. So let's look at those Adobe Acrobat Pro features. There's a lot of them. There's required fields. There's a whole bunch of different field types. Drop down, list, buttons. You can put a barcode on there. You can do calculations between different fields, almost like you would on a spreadsheet. You can put photos on there. And we do support all of these things with the little asterisk on the photo because at the time of recording this, we don't yet support photos, but we plan to in the future. So bear with us for a minute there. Soon enough, you'll be able to put photos right on your documents. But if you're using Adobe Acrobat Pro DC to create and edit your documents like we do, which by the way, we're happy to do that for you for a fee. Those fees are still being decided, but we've really got a good handle on preparing those documents for CrewTrax, so feel free to put us to work on that. But if you're going to tackle this yourself, there's just two main things you need to keep in mind, and I'm going to step out of my CrewTrax trainer role for a second here and actually show you a couple things in Adobe Acrobat Pro DC just so you can be equipped to set it up so that the CrewTrax features will work the way they should because you set up your document correctly. So the two things that you need to keep in mind if you're creating and editing your own documents for use in CrewTrax are labels and tab order. These become really important when you're exporting data as a CSV. When the data originally lived in a PDF, we need everything labeled correctly and in the correct order so that the data that comes out in your CSV export makes sense. Let me show you what I mean. So here's that JHA example you've seen in a few of the other videos, and I just want to show you what I mean by tab order first of all. If I click in the superintendent field and hit tab on my keyboard, it goes to the job number, which you'd expect. Now next, maybe it'll go to foreman. Nope. Where the heck did it go? I'm not even, oh, there it is. It went down here. Then it's going here. Now it's over here. The tab order determines the order that data will show up in your exports from your PDFs. So this tab order is kind of messed up. I would want this to go from superintendent to job, foreman, date, then here on operation, then through all the tasks, then through all the hazards. But the tab order on this document is not set up correctly. So in Adobe Acrobat Pro DC, what I'm going to do is go to, let's see, I'm looking for prepare form and it's not here. So I'm going to have to hit more tools and find prepare form. I'll just click add. That adds a little shortcut here. I'm going to click on that. And now I can see all these labels for all these fields. And if I click on one of them, you can see it selected it over here in this list. The order that it appears in this list is going to determine the tab order, or really which field comes first, and then second, third, fourth, etc., which will translate into your exports that come out of CrewTrax. So I want superintendent first. It is good. Then I want to go to job. Great. Next, I want it to go to foreman. So if I click on foreman, it's going to find it in the list there. I'm going to click and drag it up. Up, 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 up. And I want that to land right after job. So when that line shows up after job, I can let go of my mouse button. There we go. So now it's going to go superintendent, job, foreman, and next I want date. Grab that, drag it up. You can see this is pretty tedious, but it's worth it in the long run if you want your exports to make sense and be in the correct order. All right, so let's let that land right after, let's see, yep, right after foreman. And then next I wanted operation. We'll drag that up. Okay, now you can see up here it says prepare form. I'm going to go over here to close. I'm not done yet, but at least I've fixed those first 5 fields. So if I hit close and now I click on superintendent, tab, 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 tab. Now it's in the tab order that I expected. And I would want to do the same thing with all the fields on this entire form. By the way, I just noticed I'm missing a field here. Oops. So I got to make sure I have a field in all the places it needs a field. They're in the correct tab order. And then the other piece, I'll go back to prepare form, is labels. Okay, these labels make sense. Superintendent, job, foreman, date, operation, looks good. 1, that's not a real good label because I have 1 through 8 in 3 different places here. So I'm probably going to want to rename that. I'll just right click and rename. I'm going to call that task 1. All right, now that label makes sense. If down the road I wanted to export all the task 1s for a month's worth of this form, this would be the column header. and all of the times I filled that out, all of those data entries in this field would show up as all the rows in the spreadsheet. So tab order gets the columns in the right order, and then the label will be the column header on each of your exports when you export it out of CrewTrax. So again, labels and tab order. Those are the two main things to keep in mind if you're going to create and edit your own documents using Adobe Acrobat Pro, or really any other PDF editor. Make sure you can edit the labels and the tab order. And there's a lot of other things to consider, like how to create signature fields, things like that, but I've got to stick to training you on CrewTrax, so if you want help on your documents, let us know. We can give you some pointers, or you can just have us take care of it for you. Now, when it comes to which of these features translate to options in CrewTrax, probably the most important one is this one, required fields. What CrewTrax does with those required fields is it can recognize required fields, and it prevents the user from submitting their report or their schedule until those required fields have data in them. Although this only applies once that document is open. If you don't require the document, they can skip it completely. But once the document is open, they'll have to edit that field. Speaking of required documents, CrewTrax can also set an entire document as required. That just means they have to open the document and edit it somehow before they can submit their schedule. They could open it and draw a smiley face. All we know is that they opened it, they edited it, okay, they've addressed it somehow, we will now let them submit their schedule. So if you have a certain field in a document that needs to be filled out every day, then make sure it's a required field and the document is required as well. With these two features combined, they have to open up the document, they have to edit it, and they have to address the required field. And one more CrewTrax feature we need to talk about is multi-day documents, and this is going to take some explaining. So let's say you've got a schedule set up for Thursday. We're going to call that Schedule 1. You also have a schedule set up for Friday. We're going to call that Schedule 2. And on both of those schedules, you have plan6.pdf. For example, maybe it exists on a job. So you can see I've got the Green Oak Sidewalk job. That's the context for this document. And because that document exists on the job, when I add that job to the schedule, the document comes with it. Now, this is the important part. I have checked this box, multi-day document. That tells CrewTrax when this document is edited, we're going to want those edits carried over to the next schedule where this document shows up. So let's say on Thursday, the foreman gets on his iPad and he opens plan6.pdf and he edits or draws on it, and then he saves it as plan6edit1.pdf. At this point, CrewTrax doesn't just add plan6edit1.pdf to that Thursday schedule. It's also, because you checked multi-day document, it's going to look ahead and say, hey, are there any other schedules that have this document that these edits need to carry over to? Yep, look at that. Schedule 2 has it as well. So CrewTrax puts plan6edit1.pdf on that schedule. Now, when Friday arrives and the foreman is looking at Schedule 2, he has a couple options. He can open plan6.pdf and start fresh. That's the base document. He can start over. Or plan6edit1.pdf will already be there on Schedule 2. So he can open that up and pick up where he left off yesterday. All of his edits from yesterday will have carried over to today's schedule. And by the way, this doesn't just work for those of you who are scheduling ahead. Let's say the foreman did all his work on Thursday. He opened plan6.pdf. He edited it, drew on it. He saved it as plan6edit1.pdf, and that document was marked as a multi-day document. He submits his schedule. Tomorrow's schedule doesn't even exist yet. So tomorrow arrives. It's Friday now. He opens up CrewTrax, he creates his new schedule, and on that schedule he adds the Green Oak Sidewalk job, which of course brings plan6.pdf with it. At this point, CrewTrax is going to look back and say, hold on, was that document marked as multi-day on any previous schedules? Oh, yeah, it was. So let's pull plan6edit1.pdf from the previous schedule onto today's schedule, and then you got the same options you had last time. You can open plan6.pdf and start fresh, or open plan6edit1.pdf and you'll see all of yesterday's edits on there already. By the way, this isn't just from one day to the next. As long as the proper conditions are met, the multi-day document will be carried over. And when I say the proper conditions are met, I'm talking about must be the same foreman or crew. If either one of those is true, it will be carried over. For example, if you got a certain crew and you change the foreman on it, if you use that same crew, even though it's a different foreman, the multi-day documents will carry over. Or if you create a schedule with a certain crew and the next one you create without the crew, but it's the same foreman, that will work as well. So either one of those needs to be true. And then also the document context must be present. So for example, this plan6.pdf we've been talking about is attached to the Green Oak Sidewalk job. So if I have a certain crew or a certain foreman working 2 days in a row, but it's not the same job that document's attached to, well, then that document's not going to show up. And like I said, this isn't just from one day to the next. So Schedule 2 is on Friday, right? If plan6.pdf is still marked as a multi-day document on Friday, and we don't have a schedule for Saturday or Sunday, that's okay. When we create the schedule on Monday, at that point, CrewTrax is going to look back at Schedule 2 and say, look, Plan 6 was marked as multi-day. and it's got some edits submitted, so I'm going to carry those edits on to the Monday schedule. And again, you can pick up where you left off on Friday. So those are the concepts. Let me show you what this looks like in practice in CrewTracks. Here on March 9th, I have a schedule for Brett's Sidewalk crew. This is the schedule you've seen in a couple other of our videos. But today's date, as I record this, is April 6th. I'll go to schedules by date. You'll see there's nothing between the 9th and the 6th. So even though there's a big long gap between here, when I create a schedule on the 6th, it's going to look back for any documents based on the context, like the job or the equipment that's included on the new schedule. It's going to look back for the previous schedule with the same foreman or crew and check if there's any multi-day documents that need to be carried forward. So first, let me show you this old schedule. I'm going to go ahead and hit edit. And if we scroll down here, you can see I have a bunch of documents on here. I have 2 organization documents, one for a job, one for a piece of equipment, one attached to the crew, and one just attached to the schedule. And over here you can see that 2 of them are marked as multi-day documents. So if I include the Green Oak Sidewalk job on the next schedule for this foreman or crew, any edits submitted from this schedule on March 9th should carry over to that next schedule. This one, since it's an organization document, will be there by default as long as field access is allowed. So if it's the same foreman or crew and there are edits submitted, they will carry forward. Usually with a JHA, you're going to fill it out fresh each time. So this might not be the best example, but I'll show you how it works. And by the way, while we're here, there's that required option that I mentioned. Checking this box will require that the document is at least opened and edited somehow before it's submitted. And this other option here I'll touch on real quick. This is just if you want the document to automatically download to the device, or if you want to give the foreman or the user of CrewTracks the option to say, no, don't download this document until I need it. That might save on some data usage, especially on larger documents. But back to the point, we've got these 2 documents marked as multi-day documents, plan6.pdf on Green Oak Sidewalk and JHA example on the organization documents. Let's go ahead and view the report for this schedule. One thing you'll notice is we have an extra JHA example. I deleted the base document for this JHA example attached to the job, but I had already submitted some edits from the field before I deleted the base document. So I can no longer add that base document to schedules, but because some data already came in from the field before I deleted that base document, we're going to retain that data for you just in case. So I can see this old version of this document that was submitted on this date, even though the base document no longer exists. So ignore this JHA example attached to the Green Oak Sidewalk because I deleted that base document. I just wanted to demonstrate the fact that we're not going to delete data just in case you need it. The 2 documents that we're really focusing on are the JHA example attached to the organization, which is Cougar Construction, and the Plan 6 PDF attached to the job, Green Oak Sidewalk. So these are submitted documents, meaning some edits have come in from the field. We don't just have the base document. Someone has filled this out and someone has drawn or edited on here. So let's go to our schedules list for today's date. Today is April 6th as I'm recording this. I'm going to add a new schedule. I'm going to select Brett's Sidewalk crew, and Brett is the foreman. Remember, if I didn't select the crew but I chose the foreman, that works. Or if now that I've selected this crew, if I choose a different foreman, that would also work. If either the crew or the foreman matches the previous schedule, the edits on those multi-day documents will be carried forward. But I am going to keep myself as the foreman here. So as I scroll down, there's the base documents that exist on this schedule based on the various contexts that they exist in. If you happen to notice we're missing one from a piece of equipment, it's because we don't have the equipment that it's attached to. So let's switch to this skid steer. And we should see one more document. There it is, the equipment inspection for this skid steer. But if I scroll down a little farther, we're going to see we have Plan 6 Edit 1 and JHA Example Edit 1 from the previous schedule. Those multi-day documents is carried forward. So this will allow the foreman to continue where he left off the last time he was editing these documents on the previous schedule that had them. And if we want to keep carrying those edits forward to the next schedule, then leave these checked here and also make sure that multi-day document is still checked up here. We will be updating the interface now so that these checkboxes and these ones will be a little more connected. But in the meantime, if you want edits to carry over from these documents, the base documents also need to be marked as multi-day documents. On the other hand, if I made these base documents multi-day but said don't copy these to the next schedule, this will let me pick up where I left off on these documents and make edits for today. But tomorrow, those documents will not be carried forward any longer. So if you want to keep these document edits carrying forward day after day, make sure multi-day document is checked on the base document and on the submitted documents here in the multi-day document section. Okay, so I'll go ahead and save the schedule and I'll pull up my iPad. All right, so here's my new schedule. If I go ahead and tap work on schedule, I'm going to scroll over to Documents, and if I open up my Jobs folder, Green Oak Sidewalk, look at that. Plan 6, Edit 1 is already there, and it has all the edits that I put in there on my previous schedule. I believe a lot of those were on page 8. Let's find it. There it is. So there's all my circles and notes that I added before. I can pick up where I left off last time. All right, I'm going to open that up, go back to page 8 here, and I'm going to draw a big old smiley face. There we go. So I've got all the edits I had before, and I was able to add some more. And since I marked this document as multi-day and said carry the edits over the next day, tomorrow I can keep continuing from where I left off today. Now notice this, when I hit save and close, it's not going to ask me for a name for this document because it's already on Plan 6 Edit 1, which is a multi-day document. All right, similarly, if I go back home here and I look at my organization documents, I already have GHA example Edit 1. If I tap on that, you can see the edits that I made in a previous video. Now let's go back and I'll show you one more thing. Let's edit this schedule and let's make one of these documents required. Let's say we have to open and edit the Secret to Life. Uh-oh, this is gonna force me to show you what that document is. I'll go down here and save. Let's get my iPad back up here. Okay, now that that document is required, you can see it shows up as red. And if I hit submit right now, it says, nope, document secrettolife.pdf must be edited. Okay, I'll tap on view. There you go, folks. The secret to life is to be a BYU fan, not a University of Utah fan. Now you know. But I've opened it. If I close it now and try to submit, it still says no, it must be edited. So I'll hit view one more time. So I'm going to get my edit tools and I will just draw a couple random lines anywhere, right there, I guess. And now I can save and close, and I'll just hit save. I have now fulfilled the requirements of opening and editing this document. Never mind the fact that we have not beaten Utah in football in 10 years. I don't want to talk about it. I'm fine. All right, let's go ahead and hit submit. And now it says, are you sure? Because I have fulfilled the requirement of editing that document. Yes, I'm sure. I'll hit submit. Success. The schedule's been submitted. Great. Let's check it on the back end. All right, here's that schedule. Let's view it. Here's our report. There are our submitted documents, the JHA example, Plan 6, and Secret to Life. Although you can see I didn't actually edit the JHA example, I just opened it. And now if I want those edits carried over to the next day, let's go ahead and edit this new schedule. Scroll down and make sure multi-day document and copy to next schedule are both selected. And by the way, you won't have to be quite as careful with that if at the document level you make that document multi-day. So I've had to override the default setting every time because right here in Jobs, Green Oak Sidewalk, you'll see by default this is not a multi-day document. So if you don't want to have to check that box every day, just go into the base document in whatever context it exists, whether it's a job or a piece of equipment. Find that base document. Click the 3 dots under edit and say this is a multi-day document. Now, in order for it to not be a multi-day document, you'll have to uncheck the box on each schedule. And the same thing goes for required and automatically download. You can click here and set the defaults for the document, and then if you want it to be different than the default on any particular day, go to that schedule and check or uncheck the boxes to change the settings. All right, now there's one last thing I wanted to show you, so I'm going to reject this schedule, and my reason is I want to show you a required field. So I'm rejecting that so that it can be edited from my iPad again as the foreman. And I'm going to edit here, and just for this schedule on this date, I'm going to go down to Schedule Documents, Upload a New Document, and we're going to grab this JHA example with a required field. So the document itself is not required. I'll go ahead and save that. Okay, now on my iPad, I'm going to go work on that schedule again. And it tells me the schedule's been rejected because I want to show you a required field. Okay, got it. Let's go into Documents, and the context I'm looking for is just the schedule for Saturday, April 6th. Tap on that. Now you'll notice the document isn't red because I did not require this document. If you need that field filled out every single time, then make the document required and the field required. If you make the field required but not the document, what's going to happen is if now I open up this document, I'll tap Open Document, and if I fill out something else like the job number and then I save and close, at this point, it's going to say, look, if you're editing this document, you have to fill out that field. I can continue anyway if I'm going to come back and fill it out later, and I'll save it as Edit 1. And you can see now the edited document shows up as red because CrewTrax has recognized that required field. Even though the document isn't required, I have edited the document and I haven't filled out the required field. So now if I try to hit submit, it'll say, nope, that field superintendent on submission JHA example with required field Edit 1 is not set. By the way, this also shows the importance of labeling your fields in a way that makes sense. That sort of behind the scenes label that you set up in Adobe Acrobat Pro or whatever, that's what CrewTrax is picking up on and displaying here. So make sure each field is labeled in a way that makes sense when it pops up like in a place like this or in your exports. All right, I'm going to hit View, and I will fill out that field Superintendent. I'll hit Done, Save and Close. And now I can submit this schedule. But I'm going to hit Cancel for now, and just to review, if the document is not required, but a field is required, I can submit without even opening the document. But once I open the document and start editing, CrewTrax will require me to fill out those required fields. On the other hand, if the document is required, but there are no required fields, I can open that document and make any edit I want. I could type a space in it, and it will fulfill the requirement of editing the document. So if there's a document that needs to be filled out every day, and there are certain fields that have to be filled out, make the document required either by checking this box on the base document itself, wherever you've uploaded it, or on the schedule for that particular day. And then also on the document itself, make the field required. And by the way, you can see the red outline around that superintendent field. That's how I can tell that that one is required. But I would recommend when you're designing the document itself, you'll want to do something with the design of this document that makes it more obvious than just this default red outline that the PDF gives us. You might want to put a big label next to it or a thicker red border or something so that it's really clear which fields are required on the document. Okay, I'm going to close this document and submit my schedule. Are you sure? Yes, I am. Success, the schedule has been submitted. Great. So that's it for advanced features in document management in CrewTrax. Keep in mind there are a ton of advanced features in the PDF itself, like drop-down fields, list boxes, calculations between fields. There's a lot of fancy stuff you can do with our document management based on how you design the PDF itself. If you want us to do that for you, stay tuned on the pricing. We're still figuring that out as this is a brand new feature. But if you build those documents yourself, then what you need to know about CrewTrax is CrewTrax will recognize a required field in that PDF, and you can also make the document itself required. You can mark a document as a multi-day document, and you can decide whether the document is automatically downloaded or if you want to give the foreman the option to not download the document until he needs it. And lastly, this checkbox we've mentioned before in other videos, but just so you know, if you uncheck this box, the guys in the field will not see the document. It will be basically an office-only document. It won't show up in the mobile app at all. So that is the end of video 5 and our rather lengthy introduction to this huge new feature, document management. We're really proud of this, and I think it's going to be really useful for all of our customers. Of course, if you have questions, we're always available to help you out. So give us a call or send an email to customercare@crewtrax.com. And we'd also like to know how you're using this. So if you've got a great use for document management that has been just a huge game changer or just made your life easier, send that to customercare@crewtrax.com as well. We want to hear the good, bad, and the ugly. We love your feedback, and we'd love to help you, so just reach out anytime. Thanks so much for taking the time to learn this feature, and thank you for being a CrewTrax customer. We could not do this without you, and we love being a part of your business.